Hi guys, I'm Anissa and I'm back with another video, and today is time for my N.E.W.T.s wrap up. The N.E.W.T.s Readathon, Magical Readathon has been going on from August 1st until August 31st. And so yeah, today is going to be my wrap up and how I did. Now my initial plans going into this is that I have had 7 different subjects I could read from because I passed 7 of the owls. And my plans was to get at least 2 outstandings and then pass all of the other subjects, and that will require me to read 10 books. So I thought that it was quite ambitious, but still something that I felt like I could do if I put my mind to it. I ended up failing 1 category and I got outstandings in 5 of my 7 subjects, and I got an acceptable in the last and final one. But I'm gonna get into the books that I read for the different challenges and why I did, if I didn't read all of them, why I didn't, and what I read for the different categories. I won't go into anything about the actual book and what they were about, just give you the rating, because then I'll link to my weekly wrap-ups that I've been doing over the month, and you can go and watch those if you're interested in knowing more of my thoughts about them. So yeah, first things first, the first subject that I have is ancient runes, and for the first challenge it was to read a book set in the past, and for that I read Witchmark by T.J. Polk. This is set in the early 1900s, so like right around the turn of the century, and about the same time of the war, the First World War. And I finished that on the 10th of August, and I gave this one I think 3.5 stars, or just 3 stars, but I enjoyed it for the most part. To get an exceeded expectation, you needed to read one of the oldest books on your TBR. I initially put The Distance Between Us by Casey West on this because it's one of my absolute oldest books on my TBR, but I couldn't get it from the library because there was like 3 or 4 other people ahead of me. So I won't be able to get to that until like October, November-ish, even if I put my hold on it now. So I ended up reading another book that I've had on my list almost since I added a month or so later, and that was Shadow Me by Tahira Mafi, and I give that a 3 stars as well. I didn't enjoy it completely, but I sort of also didn't hate it as much as I was afraid of doing. To get an outstanding in this, you needed to read a book translated from another language, and for that I read Full Metal Alchemist Volume 6. This is obviously been translated from Japanese into English and then possibly into Danish. I think that's the route that it took, but at least it's from Japanese and ended up being in Danish, a Danish translation I read. And I just finished that last minute yesterday, so that was nice to get that in. For astronomy, you needed to read a book with stars on the cover. And for that I read Reaper Man by Terry Pratchett. This is one of my absolute favorite reads of the month, and I give that a 5 out of 5. So yeah, highly recommend that book. And it has stars in the background because there's like a night sky, as you can see. To get an exceeded expectation, you needed to read something with sky in the title. It didn't specify that it had to be sky like this sky. It just had to be sky, the letters. So I read Bowie Sky, Boy Panda Die for that, and I basically mostly hated it, and I gave it 2 stars, so I don't recommend that one. To get an outstanding, you needed to read a story set on a different planet, and for that one I read Bravest Warriors. This is a graphic novel series where these team of people, they travel to different planets to sort out different things, and this set was, so they were traveling to this planet with a bunch of clowns who were sad, who had lost their happiness, and they needed to figure out why. So yeah, I give that a 3.5 stars, I think I ended up giving it. As for Care of Magical Creatures, I needed to read a book with an animal on the cover, and for that I read Bad Unicorn by Platt F. Clark, because this has a unicorn on the cover, obviously, so that fits perfectly. I enjoyed this for the most part, and I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I needed to read, to get an exceeded expectation, I needed to read a book that was less than 100 pages, and for that I read First Frost, which I think Goodreads says 30 pages. I read it and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And this is a prequel novel to a series where I've read the first 4, but you can definitely read this and then jump into the series afterwards. It doesn't spoil anything necessarily. And to get an outstanding in this, you need to read a book that included dragons, and for that one I read Half-Blood Dragon by and I forgot the author, but you will be able to see it on the cover. Also one of my last minute finishes. The next category that I had on my N.E.W.T.s exams was charms, and to get an acceptable you needed to read a book with magic, and for that I read Hidden Magic by Ashley Mayra or something like that. It was okay, it was not a terrible book, but I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And Hidden Magic, it basically says so in the title that there's magic in this story, but this follows a witch and a mage who has some sort of magic that she has to hide from the world because they don't like that type of magic. To get an exceeded expectation, you needed to read a book with a cover that charmed you, and for that I read The Summer of Jordi Perez. I really have enjoyed this cover from the beginning, and it was actually my initial pick for this. And so I read it and I enjoyed it for the most part. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. There was a lot of great things in this one, but there were some other things where I felt like it lacked a little bit. To get an outstanding for this, you needed to read a book that you think that would leave a mark, so you don't know beforehand when you go into it. But I picked up Allegedly because this is about an African American girl. She has when we first get into it, she is 16, but when she was 8, she dropped a baby and was basically thrown to what she deems as baby prison, but to a sort of group home, because she's blamed for killing the baby. But then there seems to be something else and more to the story than that, and I just thought going to that it would be one that would be difficult to read because of the topic, and I was mostly right about that, but the ending just didn't do it for me, so I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. For Defense Against the Dark Art, I only managed to get an acceptable for this one, and that was to read the last book in a series, and for that I read Taste of Marrow by Sarah Gailey. I finished that last week, and this is the sequel to River of Teeth, and this is only a duology, so it's pretty easy to reach that goal, but I enjoyed it and it was a 4 out of 5 stars for me. Then the one category that it didn't complete anything for was History of Magic. I just couldn't fit in my book that was with a shined or foily cover, and I also was a little bit challenged with the fact that I don't have a lot of TBR books that are unwrapped. The majority of my books are wrapped up, and I can't see whether a book is shiny or foiled on ebook form, so I only had a limited number of books to choose between for this. So yeah, I decided to just skip this and focus on the other categories instead. And so for Transfiguration, I ended up getting another outstanding. To get an acceptable, you needed to read a book with a grey cover, and for that I read Dødens Terning, which is called Death's Die if you translate it into English. This is a Danish book. And I loved this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Highly enjoyable and recommend it. It's supposedly going to be translated very soon into English, so yeah, have your eyes out for this one. To get an exceeded expectation, I needed to read a book that was from a new to you author. For that I read Fortune's Pawn by Rachel Bach. This is obviously a new to me author. This is the first book in a trilogy. I've never read anything by her before. This is a softer sci-fi series and I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, to get an outstanding in this one, I needed to read a book that was set in a kingdom. I think it was only that, or it was featuring royalties, or it was placed that featured royalties. And for that I read A Mistake, A Prince and a Pregnancy. I didn't like this one. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. But yeah, that concludes the books that I finished for my N.E.W.T.s readathon. Definitely let me know in the comments down below how you did for the N.E.W.T.s and how many outstandings you got, how many classes you passed, and you meet the goals that you set for yourselves. And also let me know if you've read any of the books that I've been talking about today and what your thoughts were on them, whether you agree with my ratings, as I haven't been talking about much about the actual book and why I give the ratings. But don't forget to check out my weekly wrap-ups to find out more about my thoughts about these books, if you want to know more in-depth thoughts about them. And yeah, now I'm looking forward to September and getting into the Translate-a-thon that starts tomorrow. And yeah, so if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye!